where we go.
All right. I have just tweeted to tell the world that this is happening.
We are now live.
Yes, so we're live and everything is happening and good.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning into the Melbourne International Games Week 22 Broken Roads Steam AMA live stream. I won't say that again. If you are watching this in the future, that is because we are recording it and looping it over the weekend or putting it on our channel. Thank you very much, Tim. For those of you watching live, please ask your questions in either our Discord AMA channel or just the Steam chat for this broadcast. My name is Craig. I am the co-founder of Drop Bear Bytes and the game director on Broken Roads. With me today is Leanne Taylor-Giles, our narrative director, Tim Sunderland, our composer and audio lead, James Giles, our gameplay animator, Amos Wolf, our senior Unity developer, and Colin McComb, our creative lead. So I don't know if you want to begin with something from Discord, or if we've got anything coming in through the Steam chat yet, Tim?
Nothing on Steam chat yet. Just someone says hello.
Hello.
Mitch Former.
That's not a question.
Mitch.
Hello. Can anybody hear me?
Hello?
Well, I'm going to dial back to something from Jeff Pierce on Discord from 3 days ago. Just to clarify something, yes, some of the team members will be at PAX. Leanne, for example, is hosting 2 panels, one a GCAP panel, one a PAX panel. A bunch of us that are on this call are going to be at the event, walking around, checking out the other indies and so forth, but we don't have an official presence at PAX. We're not showing off the game. We're not doing a demo, but we will be around wearing our very beautifully branded clothing, so you'll spot us and come chat and ask us questions and whatever. But no, we're not actually showing off Broken Roads at PAX Australia this year.
And don't give COVID, please.
Yes, wear your masks and please don't give us COVID. So, cool. The next one was from Rotmulag, which looks like a Brotherhood of Steel outcast, if I'm getting his name correct. Will the developers enjoy a well-earned cold one together on release?
One.
Just one.
I think we enjoy a cold one together on the reg already, but absolutely we will be enjoying many well-earned cold ones together on release. So another question.
Yeah, we are all going down to Australia for the launch, right?
We want to have a big fat launch party, and you can enjoy.
Teach us how to surf.
Yeah, and big fat Australian beers and that kind of thing.
We'll take you to see the drop bears, Colin.
Yep.
Nice.
Right on.
I'll wear all my swag for it.
Yeah, put on your special armor. Yeah.
That's right.
Rub some human urine behind your ears just
and,
to
exactly.
them away.
Toothpaste as well also works.
The surprise face mask on the back of my head, or the top of my head, really, I guess. Either that or I can just get a Sharpie and just draw some eyeballs up here, staring up.
That only works on magpies.
Ah, damn it.
I am going to look for another one of them. So Liquid Colin, which is not this Colin, that's a different Colin.
Solid Colin?
Solid Colin.
Plasma Colin.
Liquid
Semiconductor
asks,
Colin.
have you spoken with the companies whose products have inspired in-game items? If so, how did it go? Well, the answer is no, we haven't spoken to the companies, and we are doing everything we can to make respectful homages to well-known brands without infringing copyright and leaning hard into like fair use and satire and that kind of thing. There are a couple of brands. Sorry, Leanne?
Chocky Bicky and Yeasty Spread.
There are and various other like takes on well-known and lesser well-known beers here in Australia that will be in the game and that kind of thing. There's a couple of brands that we have actually chatted to or are going to chat to for some specific things because there might actually be some decent partnership and cross-promotion opportunities, which is boring businessy stuff. One way or another, we will get a lot of well-known or recognizable brands in the game and takes on them, and thankfully Versus Evil has a good legal department that can consult on IP infringement and so forth. But, the nature of the game and the nature of fair use and the nature of satire and stuff does allow us to get away with with quite a lot, and we're not gonna, if we're not doing anything disrespectful to the brands, it's generally not an issue. Plus, hey, brands, it's not a good look for big brands to come down on little indies who are, showing off their logos or something in a funny way.
Do we get to make a joke about the Fosters?
We should.
Where somebody's like, yeah, hey, can you get a beer? You're like, yeah, here's the Fosters. Said, no, beer, mate.
Yeah, it's true.
Perfect.
Anito on Steam says, was there any particular CRPG that inspired you the most?
Let's go around, I think, because I think most of us will have an answer. Kick it off, Leanne.
Sure. I have a Planescape Torment tattoo, so I mean that's a quick and dirty answer.
I guess I'll go next. Yeah, shit. How can I say this without sounding like just totally up myself? The ones I worked on.
Impossible. Lean into it, Colin.
Yes. Also, Disco Elysium. I freaking loved that game. It was fantastic. And taken a lot of lessons from it. So
cool. Tim, have you got a?
I love Fallout. I love the Fallout series. Yeah.
James, do you happen to love Fallout? Is there anything about you or your clothing that might indicate that you are fond of Fallout?
You're muted.
Can't hear you. So I'm going to lip read. Yes, I love Fallout and everything Craig has worked
through my
on.
microphone. Jim's going to talk through my microphone.
Fallout 1 and 2. And look at my camera and talk at Leanne's microphone.
Nice.
Yes. Also, Divinity Original Sin 2 was a good time.
So much fun.
I'm going to try to fix my microphone.
Absolutely. Amos, what about your CRPG influences?
Yeah, I mean, I really liked Disco Elysium. I really liked the whole politics side of that, and especially just going through and all the different philosophical kind of things that you can get from that, which is pretty cool. Yeah, I like Fallout as well, but not as much as Disco Elysium. But yeah.
Right on.
Did you get into the shipping container, Amos? Spoilers.
Don't spoil it.
Okay.
I think I got. Actually, no, I can't say anything without spoiling it as well.
Okay. As long as you did remote high five.
I'm jumping in on that. I got
Okay, three-way high five.
High 15.
Everybody hit their cameras.
Why not? And for me, I think, look, my favorite game of all time, or at least the most influential RPG, was probably Baldur's Gate 2. That's, I wouldn't even call it open world, but the amount of freedom and the amount of replayability and the amount of character customization and the depth of NPCs and so forth was more than anything I'd ever experienced in a game before. I played that before I played Planescape Torment, which obviously had a big influence. I think anybody who likes RPGs, computer RPGs, and narrative-driven games has to have played or replay the Enhanced Edition. And then I've mentioned this a few times recently, but probably the most influential RPG that's absolutely inspired, and there's some stuff in Broken Roads, is Ultima 7 and 7.2 and Ultima 6. The virtues and what they did there were massively influential on me as a teenager, right through to studying philosophy at university because of an interest peaked from a video game that came full circle and inspired the moral compass in Broken Roads. Anything else on Steam just yet? Otherwise, there's a few more on Discord.
No, people just saying Planescape Torment. Planescape Tides Numenera is also pretty swell. Tyranny looks interesting. Yeah.
Torment, Tides of Numenera.
No.
For those who don't know why we're trolling on it, Colin was the creative lead and Leanne was a narrative designer, I think, or a writer.
I don't know what my credit was. I worked on some stuff. It was great.
Wordswoman.
She did stuff, and it was good.
Had an S and it's a swordswoman. I like it.
So this one, what was the biggest cut from the game? This is from AD or ID, a Broken Roads Discord regular, who says, what was the biggest cut from the game? Every game has stuff cut for whatever reason. What is a feature you thought was cool on paper, tried it and went nope? Again, let's start off with Leanne, please.
Can I talk about book battles?
Please do.
So I wanted to have. Sorry, Colin has just found out. I wanted to have a combat system for the people who didn't want to do combat, which was based on reading philosophy texts. And depending on your intelligence, you could read more quickly. You could choose to skim or actually read properly. And whoever got to the end and formulated their argument first and the best would win the debate. But you could also psych out your opponent by shouting at them or doing other things to make them lose pages in their book. And there was this whole formula for how you calculated the score at the end. Turned out to be a little bit too ambitious for the time that we have left. So look for it in our next game, ?
Yeah. I wish we could still have that. If by some magic the scope and timing allows.
I've given it away now. Everyone else is going to do it.
Absolutely
It's
going
fine.
in. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, well, I was going to say the problem with being at this point in development is that you come up with a lot of really good ideas because you're like just so deep in it. You're like, oh, it'd be awesome if we could do that, and it's just like, set it aside. Set it
We
aside.
have one party straw and like one toothpick left. We've got to use them wisely.
Paperclip and a piece of gum.
Exactly
You got
right.
gum?
Tim, was there anything from
No.
your side, feature-wise, or something that you had to cut?
I mean, I was planning on having Hans Zimmer ghost produce the entire
Yeah.
score, but
I was
alas,
really
we ran out of
disappointed.
money.
You really screwed up that relationship, you know.
Yeah.
I
can
mean,
you
he
do-
wanted to give you $5,000.
And you were so offended that
How dare
you
you?
turned him away.
I don't know, really. There's probably things that we talked about at the very start that I've totally forgotten about now because we're approaching the 3-year mark now, is it?
Yeah, probably just over 3 years
Yeah,
of development,
yeah.
3.5 if you include the pre-production.
Yeah, you forget a lot of things in 3 years. I'm not too sure, really. The book battle sounded like a really cool idea when Leanne first told me about it. So I didn't even know
I'd
that we
love
weren't.
to bring that back.
Yeah, I didn't know that we weren't doing it until just now myself. So yeah,
Destroyer of
as you can see, we have really good communication within Drop Bear Fights.
But we're still doing books though, so I mean you can still learn cool things from books and
And if
have
you have junk of
philosophical
all trades,
arguments
maybe
with
you can
people
throw
about
them
them.
at
So yeah,
people.
Hmm.
And it's like a book battle.
Right. Nice.
Philosophical grenades.
Just explain junk of all trades briefly, Leanne, please.
So each of the origin stories has a perk that only they get. Maybe you can learn them later on. We're figuring out whether or not that is going to be fun. But the Barter Crew has a junk of all trades perk where they can pick up any junk item and throw it as a projectile during combat for different types of damage.
How are you defining junk? Is it just a book you don't like? If you're allowed to throw?
I classify this as junk meat.
Oh God, is Atlas shrugged?
No, that's a lethal weapon.
Yeah.
So there are items in the game called junk. You can bulk sell junk to merchants. There's some other stuff to do with that I won't go into yet because we're going to work on that system behind the scenes. But for, say, a hired gun, they're going to pick up a rusted pipe and it's worth $1 because it's a piece of junk. But for Barter Crew, it's a projectile.
Cool. James, was there anything, I mean, animation side or anything to do with your sphere that we've had to cut from Broken Roads?
I don't know. I was just, my mind has suddenly become, is my microphone working?
Yeah.
Okay, great. My mind has suddenly been stuck on something that we were talking about recently about using fruit as the healing item as part of the first aid skill, so that someone who's applying first aid is like force feeding someone a banana to recover their health points.
Massive wheel of
effectively,
cheese.
like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And so I was just thinking, junk item, like, well, they got to heal that with getting their buddy to feed them a banana. Or, anyway,
Here's a rusted pipe. This will give you +1 HP.
That's right. It's here. This is
Put on their
+2
chest and just
defense
plunging
against
it
books
in.
being thrown at you or something.
Cool.
No, getting cut. I mean, there's a lot of animation still to do in the game. Having a good time doing them and polishing them and getting them in there. I'm trying to think about what I've cut, and at the moment it's like, well, there's still time, so
Yeah.
it's
We
kind
can
of so it's like, yeah, do it all, but I'm gonna prioritize.
For sure.
One does.
Yeah, darts animation for sure.
Oh, the darts animation. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's not get everyone's hopes up, but yes, it's on the list. It's a formal request, so I cannot deny
Good,
that.
okay. Yeah, I'll totally make a Jira for you if I have to.
It'll be there.
next style though.
What? No.
No?
That's just for promotional purposes only.
If you
It's
look in
out of
the
character for
like
that chicken to dance that way.
the 2019 reveal trailer, there's actually somebody collecting darts off the dartboard. This is like 3 years ago.
Mm.
They exist. There you go. I got a good base to start from.
So yeah, we'll see if we can uncut and bring back in the darts from that. Amos, so you've only been with us a few months, but I'm wondering if there's been anything that you thought of that would have been cool that you haven't been able to get to on this game.
Nothing that I was being serious about, but like about the fruit thing. Like I remember, so I was working on the first aid ability that allows you to use healing items on allies, and so by default, any item in the game that can heal, you can also heal on allies. And then I also noticed that fruit has the same effect, and I thought that's just a little. I might have to go and cut that out a bit later, because that's just a little bit weird if you just.
I kind of
Can it
like
be a
it.
projectile healing item? You can gotta line the banana or pear up and just like get it in their mouth from far away. Please.
That's how healing works.
Yeah, I know. I get caught on the hand or something. I'm like, oh shit! Somebody get me some grapes.
Where's my watermelon?
Yeah, exactly.
One is the best healer, and it flies like a banana. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, right.
Probably better than classic RPGs where you throw like a glass vial at someone and it kills them.
I got killed in a D&D game because someone rolled a 1 when they were trying to give me a healing potion and they dropped it on my head and it did 1 HP damage and I died. Oh.
On Steam, Anito says, how entwined is the alignment system with the companions? Are they ride or die, or do they have their own thing going on?
So what are they, right or die? Sorry.
Ride or
Ride or
die.
die.
Yeah. As in, they're
What
with
is
you
that?
till the end.
Oh, got it.
Or
Okay.
do they have their own thing going on?
Leanne, do you want to take this? I'm happy to, or you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, a little bit of both. The companions each have their own morality, so they will agree or disagree with what the player is doing based on that morality. You can shift them a little bit, but much the same way that you can't change every single person that you meet in the world in real life. You can't make someone who's a Machiavellian suddenly become a humanist. You can influence them and have a bit of a discussion with them. If they do leave the party, they'll go back to a certain place you can return to, and you can have a difficult moral discussion with them to convince them to travel with you again and that kind of thing. But they'll definitely speak up if they don't like what you're doing.
Yeah. So one of the things that I loved, I love Baldur's Gate 1, 2, and those games. One of the things I disliked was you could make a simple, I don't want to call it an error, you could make a role-playing decision and then somebody would leave your party for good and they were gone. And that was like often a reload moment for me because I wanted that person with me. So we decided that, yes, you can upset your companions, but they'll return to a convoy. And like Leanne says, you can get them back. We didn't want anybody to have a point of no return that feels like punishing the player a little bit for role-playing how they want to.
And you don't have to grovel. If you go back to them and you have a discussion with them, you can try to convince them. And, we're going to figure out the mechanics of, again, what's fun with that.
Yeah.
But it's not the case where you go back and say, I'm sorry for everything, and they forgive you. You do have to have a discussion about why you did what you did.
Yeah, that's really it, is the discussions and the motivations, like some of the things with the moral compass is explaining the why of it and getting the, various people in the game to understand your point of view. Like Leanne says, you're not going to change someone's worldview in one conversation, because you got a high enough score in charisma and you are a, I don't know, utilitarian. Like, we don't want it to be that simple. That you're not going to switch people's worldviews, but you are going to get them to see your point of view and then be okay with, okay, on this next quest, because you're not doing something bad, I will come along with you,
Although we absolutely should have it so that you can try to just be like, I'm so sorry for everything. I suck. I'm the worst. And just have them go, And then it becomes
This is
harder
not
to
what I
convince
wanted.
them.
Go
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
Grovelston. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mitch Former, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, on Steam says, do more dialogue options become unlocked if you pump points into specific skills, like in Planescape Torment, Charisma, Intelligence, etc.?
Yeah. Well, 100%. I mean, we've got, we used to reveal everything. I think we're leaning towards a default of hide what is unavailable, but you can switch that on as options when you're creating your game. 100%. There are new dialogue options based on your attributes, which is your core attributes, strength, resolve, intelligence, charisma, etc. Then there are dialogue options based upon your skills and your skill level. Then there are dialogue options based upon your moral compass leaning, and there are dialogue options based upon your origin story, and there will be unique interjections, dialogue options based upon party composition, events that you've done in the past, which factions you've aligned with, all those kinds of things. So there is like absurd amount of replayability. A QA team stressing at night and struggling to sleep amount of replayability and reactivity in the game. So yes, I mean, short answer yes, long answer, too much.
Also yes.
A lot.
But do QA stressing.
Yes,
this is why we write test plans.
Exactly right.
For each of our quests, we have a test plan that tells QA how to get through the quest and what unlocks certain conditions so that they can actually test it. They're not going to be relying on playing the game a billion times and trying to make sure they've seen everything. Especially for localization into other languages, we need to have quite specific test plans so that people can check if it's actually working or not. We don't want our QA to be awake at night.
Leanne with the sensible answer, me with the troll answer. But absolutely, yes. Your different skills and the way we design, the way we think we want to do it is instead of showing you if you had whatever 20 tinker, you would be able to say this option. We're going to hide that by default from like immersion perspective, but it's like one click in the options if you want to play it. Let's say, I think Fallout New Vegas comes to mind, many other games as well, that show you the skill check you've just failed or you could not pass. We're defaulting that off. We're also going to default most likely to hiding the moral compass quadrant that an answer is in. But again, that'll just be one setting in options if you do want that stuff revealed to you. Is there anything else on Steam? Otherwise,
no, nothing on Steam at the moment. Yeah, go to Discord.
Cool. Well, Daniel Bro said, is there something interesting or unique about the combat system that you can talk about? Well, there's a couple of things, the way it's changed from grid-based tactical to more sort of free-form tactical. So it used to be probably the closest comparison would be Shadowrun Returns. We actually had the same art team as Shadowrun Returns for the first year and a half, 2 years of the game. We had a grid-based, tile-based system, and then decided to move the game into like full 3D. So it's all still hand-drawn, and we're using a lot of the same assets, but instead of a tile-based setup and action points and movement points system, it's much more like Pillars of Eternity 2 now. A decision made before we signed with our new publisher, Versus Evil, who published Pillars of Eternity 2. But the closest combat comparison is probably Pillars 2. And what we are doing that's unique and different is, most likely your companion relationship statuses and how that can affect morale, which affects initiative, which affects turn order. And then, of course, your moral compass and your moral traits and your moral leaning and so forth, opening up different skills, abilities, options, the way we've got dialogue moments before and sometimes during and at the end of combat, depending on your moral leaning as well. I don't want to hide too much, but also don't want to spoil stuff. We're going to really show off a lot more about the combat soon, like properly videos and all that kind of thing once it's ready to show off. But absolutely, there's going to be things like a utilitarian character can't use an area of effect grenade or whatever if they will be hurting more of their companions than they would be hurting the enemies. I mean, that's a simple example. We'll have mercy and brutal attacks and so forth, depending on your leaning, and your companions will react to that as well. So moral compass worldview is not just affected by your quest resolution and your dialogue options and so forth, but how you conduct yourself in combat as well.
Very cool. On Steam, Critical Milk says
Red. Good name.
As opposed to curdled milk. What's your favorite thing about the game?
Sure. Let's go around. Amos.
I mean, I guess I'd probably say the combat. That's a bit biased.
The guy making the combat says his favorite thing is the combat.
I mean, I like what you described before about the, your moral leaning kind of affecting what you can do in combat and unlocking different things in combat, because that is like quite unique. And yeah, like in terms of replayability as well, it just kind of, if you decide to go down a different leading, then it also affects how you play combat as well. So yeah, I'd probably say that.
Yeah, awesome. Colin McComb, what's your favorite part of the game?
Spoilers. So the late game stuff that I'm not allowed to talk about. But you know, I was just going back and looking through some of the early conversations that we had written for the game, and there's some really brutal, heart-wrenching moments early on in the game, and also some hilarious stuff that Leanne wrote that I read it and I was just like, God damn, she's so good. And so Leanne is my favorite part about the game, I guess.
Ah, very sweet.
You took mine, Colin. Now what am I going to
Oh yeah, sorry, dude.
You have to say that. You're married to her.
Yeah,
you
exactly. You have to say
you're
that, man.
legally obligated to say that.
So Leanne
Okay.
aside, what else is your favorite, James, now that Colin has stolen your number one?
Well, I mean, I was going to say the narrative team because I like the writing.
Sorry, dude.
That's all right. But I don't know. We got. I mean, I really love. Like we recorded a little bit of voice acting for the demo, and it was really great to see, you know, all to hear Australian voices in a video game. That isn't something that happens too often, and really, it's been. As part of enjoying the writing and the narrative as being Australian and seeing like these turns of phrase and these words that I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that means, but I'm pretty sure like a lot of other people in the world won't know what that means. So we'll have our little, what is it, the pedia? What is it called?
Yeah.
Encyclopedia.
A little glossary of
Encyclopedia,
Australian
yeah.
slang.
Do we have the hover over glossary that is
We
in,
will.
right? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So you're gonna see something like, you know, they say chooks, and you're gonna be like, what the hell's a chook? And you highlight it, and it's just a chicken.
You don't call them chooks
A chook.
in America?
Yeah, chook.
A chook in the hat, a chook in it.
Oh, a chook. Sorry.
Chook.
You know, I'm sorry. It's I
Fool
do
of a
the
chook.
Canadian pronunciation.
Very, very good, Tim. Thanks, James. Tim, what's
No, I'm
your
muted.
favorite thing?
Pretty much to add to what everyone's just said, how much the narrative and the art style feels, looks, and just sounds like Australia. Pretty much from the get-go, our art, I was just like, these colours they're the Australian palette. It's bang on, you know. And then when the narrative started getting bigger and bigger, I was just reading it like, this is exactly how Australians talk. So to me, it's just how Australian it is. Yeah, I love it.
Put on. Leanne?
Yeah, I was so delighted to get off those recording sessions and know that we were going to hear Aussie voices in the game, because as James said, it's not something we've really heard. You know, we've got Repeller Feller and Combat Wombat and other things coming out, but like historically, it's always been American thing. So it was very exciting.
Wasn't the original Halo? I think there was some Australian voice actors in that, wasn't there?
I don't know, might have been.
I'm sure some of the soldiers that fight alongside you, they're Australian. I could be wrong.
Maybe.
But my other favorite thing about the game is, of course, the art, but the music.
Yeah.
I have all of Tim's tracks. I have stolen them off of our Google Drive. They're on my computer, and whenever I want to get inspired, I just put them all in and listen through. And it gives me such a great sense of the world and the people who live there and the sounds that they would be hearing in their everyday life that are subtly different because Tim's made all his own instruments and everything. So it's a unique oral landscape that allows me to get into the space of our game.
Is there anything you can expand on that, Tim, quickly about?
I need to modify my answer really quickly, which is that, you know, because I'm a word guy, you know, words are the first thing I notice. But the art and the music, I mean, all of that is just it just sucks you right in, and it gives you the space and the time to, you know, enjoy the world and the characters that we're meeting there. But I mean, the stage gets set so perfectly that it's, you know, it becomes like just sort of internalized.
Absolutely. Tim, off the back of that, is anything you can tell us about the instruments? Because what not everyone knows is you actually made instruments from bits and pieces and things that one might reasonably be able to find in a post-apocalyptic world. Can you just give us a little rundown on those instruments and how you decided on them and what you made?
Sure. So at the start, it was a bit of a quandary for me. What is the sound of Australia? And I could not come up with an answer. But so instead of going down the route of what does Australia sound like, I just thought, what would a post-apocalyptic musician have to play? And I figured, there will be some real instruments that are left in the world that have survived the apocalypse for sure, but they'll also make do with what they've got. So I made what's, commonly called a cigar box guitar. Didn't make it out of a cigar box because I didn't have a cigar box. Just some plywood. A kalimba type instrument which uses chopsticks instead of metal as the thumbs. Another sort of slide guitar that I cannibalized some electronics from a second guitar that I ever owned, and once again just some plywood. And on top of that, things like a Coke bottle flute. So I just blew over a Coke bottle and sampled that and basically just made a flute sound out of it. I think that was one of the first ones, really. And a bamboo flute that I made, which then fell apart, hence why I had to go with the Coke bottle flute.
Bamboo is now apocalyptic.
Exactly. Well, it would be a very good resource. Did we think
it grows
about
like
that,
anything.
Actually? It does, yeah. So it was more about the feel rather than the sound. And just like you can see right there's the cigar box guitar.
Yeah.
I cut nails and I glued them on as the frets. They've recently become incredibly rusty, and I hate playing that thing. It hurts my fingers. I literally shed blood.
You have to bleed for your art, isn't that what they say?
That's what you do. But
I was about to ask if you'd play something for us on it.
I've tried. It won't come through on the mic very good. But what it does do is just sort of put me into that mindset of a post-apocalyptic musician. I've always joked that I'm writing it from the perspective of someone that lives alone in a shack somewhere that's amassed all these synthesizers and instruments, and they've kind of gone a bit loopy from the Australian heat, and the soundtrack is what you get out of that. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Sounds like a description
Character.
of Tim Sunderland 2022. Loopy from the heat, alone in his shack, surrounded by
me, man.
synths and keyboards and guitars.
I keep saying it's some fictional character, but it's literally me.
Yeah, I think my favorite
character
thing
we need to throw in the game.
Sorry, Colin?
It sounds like a character we need to make in the game too. Just a random encounter, throw it in.
A wandering musician of sorts.
Fallout has the radio announcer. We're going to have our Tim.
Yeah. So my favorite's kind of an amalgam of all that, and if I were to put into like one scene, it's a location called Ardath. It's featured in the trailers, and it's been in some screenshots, and it's actually going to be the main topic of the art stream, the art live stream that's coming up in, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 hours, whenever it is, we'll post about it. Ardath to me is the culmination of everything. The writing, the music, the characters, the Australianness, the post-apocness, the homages to Fallout and like classic Mad Max and what people understand from post-apoc media in general, film and television and books and comics. There's a guy in there with a shop called Honest Wade there, which is just an awesome character. There is a collection of artists. There is a narco-syndicalist form of government with somebody who doesn't quite understand that and wants to be the ruler of it. There's a fighting pit. There's so many cool things in Ardath. And most of it is just optional content, side content can feed into the critical path. But it's just like, I think if there was one thing that shows off what is this game about, we went there, we took photos of it like most of the locations in the game. We traveled around Western Australia, took over 1,000 photos.
We met the dog.
We met the
In
dog.
the street of Ardath, when you arrive, there's a dog. The dog comes and says hello, and it's beautiful.
Exactly right. So yeah, it's modeled off the real Ardath Hotel, as is the case with most of the locations in the game. Genuine Western Australian and wheat belt landmarks and towns and buildings and so forth. And Ardath just kind of like ticks every single box of what Broken Roads is about. Yeah.
Cool. Mitch Former again on Steam says, I understand that a pacifist playthrough is feasible. Is this viable for all moral corners?
Go for it, Leanne.
Yes.
Well, I'll expand on that.
Okay, next question.
Yes, and
it's not going to be obvious, and it's not going to be easy and simple. We wanted to originally just do, hey, this was possible in the original Fallout. Let's do that. If you had exactly the right character build, knew exactly what to do, and picked exactly the right dialogue options, and had the right stats and that kind of thing, you could complete the original Fallout in a, well, we say pacifist. Spoiler, I don't want to spoil a 25-year-old game or anything, but you could finish the game without combat. We've expanded on that a little bit. Like, we don't want it to be totally obvious how to get through the game with the pacifist playthrough, but there's actually like multiple pacifist paths. Some things, like, it's glaringly obvious without us having to have klaxons and a red light for the player. If you go and take on a mercenary contract in the mid-game, you're probably going to sacrifice the pacifist playthrough. But if you're a little bit more careful on who you align with and so forth, we want it to make sense that you can have a pacifist playthrough while not making it completely obvious. There's a lot of stuff we're doing that is also puzzle solving, point and click adventure, dialogue driven, resolutions to quests and situations. So yes, absolutely, there are multiple pacifist playthroughs. We want them to feel natural, and we want them to the player's going to have to work to find them, but 100% you can play the game multiple ways without having to kill anybody or directly kill anybody in combat, let's say.
Yeah, I don't think that the pacifist playthrough is necessarily tied specifically to the philosophical quadrants either.
No, you're exactly right.
So yeah, so it should be possible without being, you could be a Machiavellian and still, not kill anybody.
Yeah.
Make that your personal brand.
But not actually do it.
Yeah, it might be less obvious if you a hired gun, a mercenary, and you decide that you're a pacifist mercenary. You're probably going to run into a few challenges.
Yeah, that's a character arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like being a vegan vampire in Dungeons of Dreadmore.
Yeah. Well, it is exactly like that. So yes, multiple pacifist playthrough paths through the game. They won't all be obvious, and we're not going to alert the player every time that they're about to enter something. Like, we're going to try and be sensible with the game design, the narrative. You also have to be sensible about the kind of side content that you take on if a pacifist playthrough.
You've got to earn it. Yeah.
But this is something where the combat design comes into play again as well. You will have an opportunity to talk to the people who you are fighting generally. So you can work on you can surrender or negotiate or intimidate them or something to avoid combat that way.
Yeah. Is there anything else on Steam? Because there's a couple in Discord.
Anita says, real quick one, can I pet the camel?
We are making it that you can pet every dog, every cat, and I think we should make it every camel in the game.
But not the drop bears.
Not the drop bears. They will not appreciate being pet. No, it's business critical. It's top line. Cannot ship without being able to pet the creatures in the game. Absolutely essential.
Good luck, animator.
What about the lizards that go running out?
No, they're too quick. They're too quick.
Yeah, you can't catch them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to just scroll down through.
Just a quick one. Another nobody, who I guess is just another nobody, wants to know if it's a fixed camera or 360, zoom in and out, characters, min-max numbers.
Sure, that's quite a lot.
Yeah.
That's a quick one from another nobody. Well, fixed camera in terms of perspective, so it's not a 360 camera. We've got zoom, of course, you can pan around and so forth, but it's a fixed camera. Like if you looked at Torment Tides of Numenera or Pillars of Eternity or Baldur's Gate, that style of fixed, or early Fallout, that style of fixed camera, what we call isometric perspective. Yes, artists and mathematicians, it's not technically isometric, but it's isometric as far as video games go. What else was part of that question? Min-max?
Yeah, min-max numbers, I'm guessing, for your party members.
Oh, okay. So it's a maximum of 4 companions for a party size of 5. And I believe that there's only a few moments in the game where you don't have a companion. We're not designing this for solo runs because having a companion also allows for more natural moral discussions and philosophical discussions at certain moments. We don't want to like stop you while you have a deep and meaningful thought, internal monologue or dialogue about how you've reached a conclusion or something like that.
But also because back at the convoy, companions have their own interactions with each other when they're left behind. So otherwise, if you could leave everyone behind at the convoy and go off adventuring by yourself, you'd come back and there'd be 20 things that you have to resolve.
Maybe go into that a little bit, Leanne, because that's something we haven't really touched on. What is happening with the companions that you've left behind at the convoy while you're out adventuring with the others?
It depends on what was happening with them when you were adventuring with them. So there are people at your convoy who stay there who aren't party members, but who provide training or other services. There's someone who bakes things that are going to heal you, and that might be on a timer and that kind of thing. There's 2 particular characters already at this moment who will refuse to be in the party together if certain things happen. And spoiler, one way you can resolve that is to leave them alone together at the convoy for a while. And depending on other factors, that will turn out differently, but they'll resolve their differences their own way. Otherwise, you can attempt to mediate by having a discussion with them directly and that kind of thing. But the convoy members and the companions who are in the convoy at that time will have events that occur during the course of the game, and that will change some of the minor storylines based on who's around when whatever happens.
Cool. Is there any follow-up to that on Steam, Tim? Otherwise, I've got something from Discord.
No, go for it.
Cool. Well, this is a question from Mr. Confusion, who asked a little while ago, is there going to be an open beta? Right now, we don't have any plans for open beta. We're not even planning early access. We kind of want to get the game to shippable state. And ideally, we'll be able to launch a demo if we're happy with it. So a lot of people asked about demos. When we were at Gamescom and on Twitter and around, people have been asking if we're going to have a public demo. Sure, we want to. We're not prepared to commit to anything, quite simply because, hey, game dev and events, things happen. I'll say no early access, no public beta. Ideally, we will have a demo next year before launch. But again, don't tweet that I said so on an AMA in September 2022 and we didn't end up having a demo. I want to. Let's see if all the stars align and we can have a demo. Cool.
Anito wants to know how the world ends.
Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
Deepers. Well,
there's several bangs.
There's a lot of bangs.
There's bangs and a lot of whimpering and a lot of everything.
Yeah. So
run through it.
Are we going to give them the time and date?
I'm happy to.
Yeah, I mean, like you said in the in one of the interviews at Gamescom, it's basically like just this world where they keep making the wrong, worst decision every single time. The short-sighted, greedy decision, the selfish decision, the one that doesn't take into account the bigger picture, and basically just driving the world straight off a cliff, and everybody just getting madder and madder about it.
Yeah.
But also October 4th at 3 p.m. in 2036, put it in your calendar.
That's when the world ends.
Boy.
I'm happy to go into it because we're going to put this on the website and describe the timeline and all that kind of thing. I mean, we have like Colin says, everything that can go wrong does because of humans not being as good to each other and as sensible as they should. So we have climate change, we have another financial crisis, we've got political extremism driving people to another war. We've got a civil war in the United States. We've got then global superpowers that build up around those two, like a new axis and allies. We end up having a nuclear war, but there's also been famine, rising sea levels, just
terrorism.
You name it. Like it's just.
I thought we were supposed to talk about the game, not reality. Craig.
No, well, that's the thing. So we started writing this in like early 2019, and then we watched events unfold. That was like, Gee, should we edit the timeline? Is this our fault?
This is too believable.
Yeah, right. And that's I'm seriously about 30%. I was like, no, Leon, don't say the date. Oh no.
Now it's coming true.
Because there's been several times that we've made these predictions and then, oh hey, look at that. The game has written itself once again into reality.
Yeah, no, totally. So we've got everything that like the world was already in a shitty state, and then it did culminate in, I don't think we're calling it World War III. Like
World War shit.
World War shit.
That's what Colin keeps saying. Yeah, I love it.
World War shit is the big one
fuck-up.
and the last one and the Great Leveler, and Broken Roads occurs about 100 years after that, Leanne. So time, quite a bit of time has passed, and people are starting to rebuild, and it's been enough generations that some people they don't know what the world was like before and so on. But yeah, it's just humans carrying on down a pretty pessimistic trajectory if we look at the world around us now. Yeah.
Cool. Go to Discord.
Anything else on Steam right now?
Go to Discord. Go for it.
Well, a while ago, somebody asked about pet companions. So no, we're not going to have pet companions. There are pets, though. There are animals that are with you at the convoy. We have a couple of cool
Of them are our pets.
mutated creatures. Yes. So as will be shown on the art stream later, our pets actually feature in the game. So the cats are like texted around our cats and that kind of thing. So you'll see, animals in the game that are actually modeled off and texted.
Even the cat in the game is my cat's meow.
There you go.
Yeah.
So they're our pet companions in the game.
Yeah.
But no, you don't have pet companions. I think, more seriously from an RPG perspective, if I think of, say, Pillars 2 and other games, you did have a pet companion that would follow you around and affect your stats and like to do certain
Riot
things.
dog.
The ranger class had a pet as well. We don't have plans for anything like that for your party, but absolutely the convoy and people that you meet in the world and so forth.
I do want a pariah dog from Fallout 2.
Would
Just
be nice.
makes all your stats one.
Just
meat.
call Brian Fargo and see if he's okay with us just taking it.
I'm sure. So
Why not? Okay, one sec. Let's see if anything else has come through. That is everything that's come through from Discord.
Sure. So there's one on Steam. Is the protagonist the leader of the convoy? Are you managing it as the story unfolds?
Who wants to take this one?
Leanne, can I do it? And you can just tell me to shut up if I start getting into spoiler territory.
Oh, I'll tell you. No, yeah, go ahead.
All right. So
anyway, yeah.
Yeah, right. So as the game starts, you play one of 4 origin stories: a hired gun, a member of the barter crew, a surveyor, or a jackaroo, which is essentially an Australian cowboy. And you're working with this town called Brookton, but. And this is not spoilers because it's like in the first hour of the game, but the town gets attacked and destroyed, and this is essentially what makes up the convoy. And the leader of this town, a gruff old bastard named Mick, is essentially, getting really down on himself because of his failure to protect the town that he built up. And so you as the player eventually start to become, sort of a natural leader for them.
Leanne, do you want to add anything?
As spoiler-free as I can make it.
Let me spoil it now. Yeah, that's it's mostly a story of people working together to rebuild what they lost without being able to return to the place where it was lost or recover the people who were lost. So the player is making decisions that affect the convoy, but they're not in charge of the convoy because it's a group of people working together. So they're important, but they're not the person who decides what happens to everyone. And the convoy is also part of a larger city, so they also don't control the city. So you have agency, but not control. Yeah,
one of the rules for the writing was it had to make sense why people are suddenly following this person they just met. Yes, it's an RPG thing of like, hey, stranger, we're both going in the same direction. I will literally follow you to death 5 minutes after meeting you. Let's go to combat and fight a dragon. Like, obviously that's RPGs and it's fun and we're going to do that, but you don't start off just the leader of this pack or the leader of the convoy or anything like that. You really have to earn trust, and you can lose trust, and people have to have faith in you, and it's part of the what Leanne was talking about earlier about they won't abandon you if you make decisions that they don't like, but they might bail from the party at that time and wait for you at the convoy. And as you go along, we want it to feel like it makes sense. Okay, cool. That's why this person would take your advice here, or that's why you've earned this person's confidence in your competence to make good decisions and that kind of thing.
Absolutely make it so that people in the convoy just don't trust what you say. If you if you lie a lot, if you make bad decisions, when it comes down to making a very important decision and you weigh in, they're going to go, no, man, I'm not doing that.
And it's not just the convoy, like Colin was mentioning. There's other people in the world as well that you don't control, but you'll have to influence it, or you can dodge. There's quite a bit of stuff where we want it to make sense that your journey, kind of the people in the world are reacting to you realistically, and don't just go, okay, like hero of the wasteland, cool, you said that thing, let's do it, town. We want it to be a little bit more depth in that.
Yeah, but some of it is just that this town has been ravaged, and you, as a relative outsider, don't have nearly as deep a connection to it, so you're not as affected as these people who just watch their friends and family.
You're able to be more objective. Hello.
There you go, pet companion.
Pet companion. Make sure that I don't have a black hoodie for much longer.
Making sure no spoilers. Horatio Manx on Discord says, "Guns, guns, guns!" Exclamation mark. What kind of guns are there, and what kind of combat skills are there? Ruffle, Australian flag emoji. So
show me guns, Craig. Show me.
So I mean,
like an Amos question.
Yeah, like Amos, you've been a little bit closer to the combat. Are you able to answer guns, guns, guns? What kind of guns, and some combat skills? I'll help you out with the kinds of guns and stuff if need be, but no one's closer to the combat skills at the moment than you are.
Yeah. So I mean, just like we've got like revolvers and rifles and stuff like that, but then also a whole range of different ad hoc kind of melee weapons and stuff. So like bats with barbed wire over them and stuff. But I think as for the abilities, there's a skill called Deadeye, and basically it means all your shots they'll have extra accuracy, but also they will knock back any character that you hit. So it just kind of creates a lot more opportunities. You can maybe go behind them, knock them back into one of your allies. What was it? There was another one. Yeah, there's another one called Barbican, and what that does is it allows you to act as a personal meat shield for one of your allies. So you can stand in front of them and act as just cover.
So yeah, one of the things just briefly about the combat is it's like, I don't know, tactics light, like cover matters, directional facing matters, optimal range matters. So like you can't stand next to someone and fire a sniper rifle at them, you'll have a major disadvantage. And certain characters of certain skills and so forth can actually be cover. For human beings.
And use others as cover.
Or use others as cover.
If you're nihilistic enough.
Exactly. So you can use others as cover if you've got the right makeup. You can have others unwillingly become cover for you. It's probably the more accurate description. Yeah, go for it, Amos.
I was just saying one of the other abilities is was that Drunken Master, where essentially you can fire off a lot of shots as you drink beer, but you're just not that accurate. So it's just kind of like a chaotic kind of ability.
So we don't have magic potions, and the Australian government is not a big fan of drugs in video games. So but they're totally fine with alcohol in video games, and so we're using beer as our magic potions, as our drugs that you might have found in the early Fallout games. So we've got a ton of craft beers, and they are basically like our buffs and magic potions and that kind of thing. And we're leaning pretty hard into that. So that's another really fun thing. I would say authentically Australian that we're leaning into about this game,
We got to get a Technicolor Yawn achievement in there for if you drink every beer in the game.
Very good. Rad. That is the last of the Discord questions. If there's nothing else on Steam, we could maybe look at wrapping this up. Are there any more questions?
No, nothing else on Steam. No.
Okay, cool. Well then, I reckon that. Oh, I see now Horatio Manx has heard me and is typing furiously at his keyboard.
Knives.
Knives. What kind of knives are there? Let's see what Horatio says.
Fruit. What kind of fruit?
What kind of fruit can you force in people? I'll give it 1 minute for Horatio. Okay, to expand on guns, would there be a crafting system? So there isn't a crafting system that you might understand. We have recipes. So the closest comparable, again, a game I've never spoken about, Baldur's Gate 2. If you go to, the dwarf in the docks, he has, if you bring me this item and this item and this item, I can give you something unique. So that's more what we're doing. Like, we don't have crafting as you might understand it, but we do have get these things together and you can get like unique weapons or unique add-ons or unique clothing. The only crafting will be craft beer, and maybe you can discover more craft beer as you go. He has just said Caspinar. Is that the name of the dwarf in?
Yeah.
Right on. Cool. Thank you, Horatio Manx. Clearly smashing our target audience right there. So yeah, no crafting, but recipes, and that's like some fun side content as well to try and find all the bits and pieces and get some unique things.
Plus, you have to make sure that you treat Cole well, because otherwise you'll have a sad time, and he's your crafting guy.
Yeah, so Cole is one of the companions. You've seen him in the key art and in the trailers and so on. He's like our mechanic / would be a blacksmith if this was a fantasy RPG, and he's a companion, but he's also somebody who can do projects at the convoy. So Leanne was talking about, earlier about what happens if you're leaving certain people behind. Cole will be your tinkerer / blacksmith / crafter. Cool. Now, once again, Horatio Manx is typing furiously.
You assume he's furious. I don't know if he's furious.
I know, he could be very casually typing,
very calm.
Just, and I will give this a little bit more time so he can get his question in before we wrap this up. Nothing more on Steam in the meantime?
No, that's it. Just people saying they're keen to play the game.
Awesome.
Thanks a lot for the chat. Great job. So, yeah, thanks for that.
I have a question. Can you make a party of all people with cricket bats with, saw blades in them, Amos?
Sorry, what was that?
Can you make a party that's just 5 people with cricket bats with saw blades in them?
Yeah, just mad.
So what Horatio is asking is, can you find a scope and have it attached to a revolver or a rifle? So I think we're probably going a little bit harder than that. Then you can mod your weapons, because I don't think we've really designed in weapon mods right now. It's just a scope and a team size and a balancing and a QA thing. What we'll rather do is have known quantities of recipes, so you'll get the revolver and the scope and a tin can and a piece of string and a whatever hair of camel, and you put all that together and you get a unique type of revolver, for instance. That's more what we're doing.
Like you have to go and find the people who will grind the glass for the scope, and then we'll get a casing forged for it, and then
exactly.
Scavenge some screws someplace or get some made.
And then Cole will put it all together, over a period of time for you, for instance. It's more that kind of a situation. So cool. Awesome. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks to the team for answering the questions. Thanks a lot, Tim, for the technical and the recording and the whatnot. And yeah, of course, just huge thanks to the community for your encouragement, for wish listing, for chatting on Discord and retweeting our tweets, and the interesting and funny and trolling conversations we have in the Discord. Join it if you haven't already. It's a lot of fun, and really, really looking forward to bringing you this game next year and seeing what you all think of it. We hope we can deliver on your expectations. Right on. Thanks everyone.
Awesome.
Thanks all.
Bye.
Bye.